see.
El nuevo significado de...
All right, I got it backwards. Excuse me. And sorry everyone, I'm getting there. All right. How about now? I hope you guys can see me. I have a little bit of a delay on the computer screen because I'm trying to use the better camera today. Let me see if I can see myself on the computer. And we're gonna get started right away. Okay, my video is frozen. Can you guys see me? Could you please write it on? You're seeing my keyboard. Okay, great. How about now? Now I think you can see me. Okay, just 1 second. Now, this is gonna fall off 100% because if you could see where it's standing on, you know, it's gonna fall off for sure, but right now it is working. So, hello everyone. Thank you. We're gonna get started right away. Yeah, maybe like this. All right, can you hear me? Let me just know if you can hear me fine, if the volume is good, and then we're just gonna get started. It's great to see you guys in here so early because then I don't have to wait around for people to get in and then I get all nervous. So thanks. So if you can confirm that the volume is good. You hear me? Hello? Ah, Daniele, hai visto? Hai visto che ti faccio caso? Bello, no? Okay, so if I look that way, it's just because I'm reading your comments. Okay, I'm gonna move them this way a little bit. So don't think that I'm distracted or not looking at you guys. Okay, I'm gonna put it right here. Okay, so we're gonna get started today. I'm gonna get to the questions in a second. Today I'm going to talk about my guitars, and before we begin, I just want you to know that I'm not showing off my guitars. You know, I started, as I'm gonna tell you later, I started with just one guitar for many, many years. And it's not a matter of showing you, oh look, I have a lot of guitars, which actually compared to a lot of professional musicians, I don't have that many. But I think it would be helpful maybe to give you a little bit of a view of what I used to record and what different qualities these guitars have. And you know, I got them one by one, of course. And so sometimes I just figured that I needed that certain sound or that certain texture. And I thought that one of those guitars would give it to me. And so that's where this comes in. So if maybe one day you're going to look at a different guitar or an additional guitar for your musical needs, then this might be helpful. And it's just fun to talk about gear. And I do hate people who have a lot of gear who say, well, you don't need all this gear. You know, I need it, but you don't. You can do music with a laptop and a shitty guitar. And that might be true, but having gear and good gear is actually inspiring, and it's also a necessity, but we're going to talk about that. The only thing I might say regarding the amount of guitars is that playing the music that I play, for those of you who are not familiar, I do instrumental guitar music. It's rock music, but it's instrumental music. So it's really all guitars, and the guitars do all the melodies and all the solos, of course, and I do all, you know, most of the rhythms are made on guitars. And so eventually you find out that you do need more textures because an album is a long thing, you know, and you don't want to bore people. And sometimes to express a certain thing, you need a certain sound. And there's only so much you can do by twisting knobs, you know. So today I'm going to talk about guitars. And hopefully next time we're going to talk about the amps. And I have a few amps and I'll show you how I use them maybe and what I use them for and so on. And before we begin, one more thing I wanted to ask you guys, if you want to give me your opinion. Remember I told you a little while ago that I was going to make a series of videos about my songs, but in a way that would be helpful to guitar players. So my idea was to have, for each of my songs, maybe not all of them, but you know, maybe the best known songs, make a video that goes into maybe how I wrote the song really quickly, but and maybe what I used to record, but mainly maybe one or two things about that song that are interesting as a composition or as a technical thing or a riff, you know, something that might be useful to to other musicians. So I was thinking of doing this live because I really don't like making videos. It's not my thing. And I do enjoy this a lot, hanging out with you guys. So if you would be interested, maybe you can let me know, and maybe they will be a little quicker. They won't be an hour long, but I think it would be fun, and then you can ask questions, right? So, and since nowadays you can all listen to the music for free, it's fun because I can ask you to listen to it and, you know, not ask you to buy anything. And then once you hear it, then you might have questions that apply to your own situation, because I'm not really that big onto talking about my stuff all the time, but I wouldn't mind talking about my things if I can help you out with whatever thing. All right, so that's the, okay, we're done with that, and we're gonna start with the guitars. But first, there's a couple of questions. So, what an amazing studio. Well, thanks, Alex. Yeah, I'm gonna do a little studio tour soon. Again, maybe one of these live things, but thanks. And maybe you should show us your studio next time. You know, make a video, because you must have a studio, because your album sounds great. Eric Burasa. Okay, Andre, help me settle the debate. Pre-refined or post-refined Parker Fly? And someone who has played both, I think you'll be able to offer a more balanced opinion than most. Yes, Eric, that's a good question. And we're going to get to the Parkers, but I'm going to answer this really quickly. I played both, and for sound, I think I like the newer guitars better. I think the older ones, I have a kind of a similar thing, which is the yellow one, the Deluxe. I'm going to show it to you in a little while. That guitar is more similar in sound to the old ones, and I'm going to get into the details about it later. But to me, they sounded, for certain things that were great, you know, they sounded a little bit, I don't want to say artificial or cold, because that's not, you know, that wouldn't be fair, but they do sound a bit edgy in a way. You know, they don't sound round like the new ones. That also has a lot to do with pickups. You know, the pre-refined pickups were based on a DiMarzio design, which was kind of you know, adapted to the depth of the body. We'll look at that soon. And so they had a strange kind of like not metallic, but you know, it was a kind of a thin sound. It reminded me of you know, how Freddie Mercury's voice changed in the last couple of records, especially on Innuendo and Made in Heaven that they did later. He had this kind of airy thing, which is not bad, of course, it's great, but for a guitar, it sounded a bit too thin. And so the post-refined ones were great, but I have to be, you know, to be precise with this, I was sent these guitars, the two ones you see in the back, the white one and the black, the solar flare one. Those were made for me by the shop, and I assume that all guitars were made to the same standard, but I can't guarantee that, you know, the attention to the pickups and the woods would be the same. I think if your guitar is in good condition, I would go with a post. But if you buy one second hand and you're not sure, there are things on the pre-refined that are a bit more, I think they're a bit more trustworthy. I think the bridge, it feels like sturdier on the old ones. I didn't really like the wheel though. I didn't really like the wheel coming off, you know, like seeing the wheel through the body of the guitar. I wasn't a big fan of that. So design-wise, I really like these. They did have problems with some frets falling off. I heard people. I had one instance in mine. I fixed it and it never came back. You know, there are a few things that people got kind of concerned about. There was somebody who had the whole fretboard kind of fall off. You know, that's terrible, especially now that they're not in circulation anymore. But I've been very lucky, and you know, they treated me very well at Parker. So I would say if you can try the guitar and it sounds good to you, then I would probably go with a post. But if you want to go with a pre-refined, you can still change the pickups. I think DiMarzio still makes, and Seymour Duncan might as well. If you order certain pickups, they can make you a Parker version of it. Just don't go out and buy normal ones because they won't fit. We'll look at that in a second, okay? And you say 100% agreed. Once I replaced the DiMarzios, yeah, with Seymour Duncan Jazz, totally changed the sound. It's true. It's true. Well, the pickups are, you know, there's a lot of talk about tone woods and stuff. And a guitar like the Parker, you know, is a bit more susceptible to it because it's so thin. You know, all the strength of the Parker comes from the coating in the back, which is a polymer. It's a carbon thing in the back. And so they're light, you know, they're thin. And most people would think that the wood would play even more importance because it's so little of it. But really, my experience is that a lot of the sound of a guitar comes from the pickups. So, you know, if you change pickups on any Parker, it will sound close to what you want it to sound like. One thing is the metal frets. The metal frets give a certain sound, that is true. But I enjoy it. I really like the metal frets, and I'm not concerned about changing them, you know. So I'm thinking slowly to eventually be putting metal frets onto all my guitars, the ones that I use a lot. All right, great, Eric. I hope that answered your question. And Jose says, I want to know about your song Midnight Driver, which guitar you use, pickup configuration, pedals, any mode. By the way, your Power Fantastic album is fantastic. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, because that's kind of the album that I'm always like, you know, there's some great things, but it's my first record that I produced, and I'm always like, did I fuck up here and there, or does it sound as good as it should? And I think it's a hit. I thank you very much for your comment. I think it's a bit hit and miss on certain songs, like as you mentioned, Midnight Driver, Power Fantastic. I think it's a good song, Written in the Sand. I think all the songs are good, but some of them didn't quite come out. And I'm going to let you in on a secret. I never talked about this, because you never want to give negative things about songs, because people might love them for what they are. But there's one song that I'm like, maybe I wish I could have done it different, which is Sapphires and Gold. Is a song that's it's a beautiful song, but I think it was too much for me at the time. And so when I talk about just make your music, you know, and you know, start composing as soon as possible and create a product, you know, and sometimes you have to live with the deficiencies of this product, but I think it's important that you do it, because you'll have some things about it that you don't like, but then people like you come up and go like, wow, I love that record, you know, I love that record way more than like maybe Lights and Shadows, who got so many great reviews, and it's a very beloved record. And so, you know, do the best you can, and sometimes it maybe you see it from a point of view that's from the creator, and it's not objective, you know. So thank you very much. I appreciate your comment. Enrique, hello, and tell us something of the Flying V. Okay, we're gonna start with the Flying V. I'm gonna get two at a time. Please let me know as soon as I get back if you can hear me, all right? Because every time I get up, I have to disconnect this. So I'm gonna get the two guitars, and as soon as I get back, please just drop me a line that you can still hear me. I'm gonna get the first two guitars, then we're gonna start from that wall. All right. Okay, I hope it works, because I wouldn't know how to fix it if it doesn't. I'm gonna give you a couple of seconds, because I see a delay in the screen, so. Oh man, I should have. Good, great. So it gave me time to tune the guitar. This guitar, I'm just here at the camper, so just to show you a little bit how it sounds. So this guitar is 1984 or 1981 Gibson Flying V. And when I first started playing the guitar, my first electric guitar was, yeah, it is beat up. This guitar was, I'm gonna show you actually from close up, it's crazy. But this guitar, I had a Flying V, which the brand was Rock X, which I think is similar to, you know, whatever the cheapest thing is today. And not because of my parents didn't love me, they loved me very much, and they actually always said, if you want to play, we'll get you whatever you need to play. But we didn't know better. And so I went to a store and I saw a guitar that wasn't too expensive, and it had this cool shape, and I was very much into the Scorpions, I remember, and Michael Schenker, of course. And I said, this is it. This is the guitar I want. And it was red, and it was a piece of junk. But eventually I sold it, which I kind of regret. But I still have my very first guitar. I still have that. It's a classical guitar. But we went to New York City one time on holiday. And at the time, 48th Street in New York still had all the music shops. You know, all the famous Manny's and all those Rudy's, all those shops, and the Guitar Centers and the Sam Ash, they were all there. And so you could go into all these shops and look at guitars. And we saw this in a window. And it was maybe $700 or $800, which if you think about it now, that's 600 euros. That's crazy. And my dad talked to them and brought it down to $600. So I got this for $600 in 1996, I think it was. 1995 at the earliest. It was a great trip in New York. I remember going to the top of the Twin Towers. That was long before I moved to America. So, you know, I was a kid from the suburbs of Milan and went to New York. You know, it was one of the craziest trips in my life. And maybe that's why I love that city so much, you know. But anyway, this guitar, it's a untouched 1984 Gibson, and it wasn't like this when I bought it. It was a bit yellow, but I played a lot on this guitar. I played like thousands and thousands of hours. And you can see all my guitars have this. You see this where the paint is peeled? That's from playing. Some guitars I have are actually, you see the wood. And yeah, and the Parkers don't because I put a little protection. But this guitar has the standard, what is it, the 498 and 96 pickups. It's very aggressive. It's a really good sounding guitar, but slowly, you know, it's suffering a little bit. The frets are quite low, never refretted it. I just don't want to do it. You know, I like it the way it is. And I use it to record. I use this on a lot of rhythm tracks on Power Fantastic. It's been used on Feel the Sky and Lights and Shadows, and just a little bit on Mystic Electric, not much, but on the previous 3 records, it's been used a lot. At the time of Power Fantastic, I only had this guitar, another guitar, and then one that I'll show you that was my best guitar at the time. But you can see this, the paint. You see how it's, you see that? You see the stripes? Look at that. Yeah. So it's a wonderful guitar, and I bought it out live a few times, but you know, now it stays at the studio because it has a affective value as well, because my dad bought it for me, and you know, to me it means how much he supported, and my mom, of course, they supported my crazy ambition to become a guitar player. So, you know, it wasn't something that was very common in my family. Actually, somebody tried it in the family, it didn't go so well, and so they were a bit worried, but I thanked them for letting me do my thing. Although they did tell me to go and get a degree in psychology. As you know, some of you know I'm a psychologist, so if you have any problems, send in your questions. Don't do that. It wouldn't be good for you. All right, so that's the one. She even has a name. Yeah, a friend of mine called it. I'm not gonna tell you what it's called, but yeah. Let's see. That is a beautiful and beat up Flying V. Yep. Seller's remorse. Yeah, you know, sometimes you sell stuff and you're like, why did I sell it? Well, at the time I didn't. I really needed to sell it because I was going to America. And so when I moved to America, I figured, you know, I sell my stuff that I won't take with me to the States. I moved to California in '98, and so I brought this, but I left the other ones here, and I had a little pedal board, a Zoom pedal board. I had a small washboard amp, you know, crappy stuff. I sold it, you know, and I didn't know better. Okay, let's see. Now this guitar, and this might be interesting to a lot of you, because if you noticed, it's an Epiphone, and this is maybe the best sounding guitar that I have, or one of the top sounding guitars that I have. And this guitar came about because, look, see, you can see that. All my guitars end up like this. And this guitar is only like 2 or 3 years old. And it sounds great because I bought this guitar because I just wanted to have a 335, because I just enjoy them. And I was listening to a lot of, well, you know, one of my first concerts that I saw was Chuck Berry in 90-something. I saw him, and he was old then, but, you know, it was great. And so I got into that a lot, and then I got into other people. You know, Clapton used the 335, and then I thought, wow, you know, Larry Carlton used a lot of 335s. Robin Ford we saw with an Epiphone. So, you know, I thought eventually I'm gonna get one, but I didn't want to spend a lot of money on it because my main guitars have to be different. You know, I can't do all my stuff with this. So it was just gonna be a texture guitar, which you'll see quite often in my guitars. Most of them are specific to a certain sound. And I thought I wanted that sound with this guitar. I wanted a very classic humbucker sound. And so I played a friend's Dot. This is the Epiphone Dot. There's about 300 euros. And I thought it was a great guitar playing wise, but you know, it didn't sound too good. So I bought one. I bought one actually online from a store, and I didn't even try it. I thought, you know, it would probably be fine. And luckily it's a great feeling guitar. And it's perfectly, you know, stay intonated very well once you set it up. Didn't change anything, but I redid the whole thing down here, all the electronics. So this guitar has Seth Lover Seymour Duncan pickups. And if you don't know, these pickups are not waxed, sorry. So they don't have any kind of, you know, usually they put wax to reduce the vibration. So if you actually talk loud enough, it will pick it up. So if you play live, you know, with loud volumes, with distorted amps, this might feedback too much for you. But in the studio, it's just incredible. And it sounds great. Let's see. Now, this is just a profile, but... And then I have this pickup, which I love. So it sounds round, you know, it sounds round, but it sounds so present. And yeah, this is not potted, that's right. And it sounds like right there, you know, and even if you put a bit of distortion, I find it incredible for medium distortion. So I use this lately. I've used it on the Melody of Answers, for example, on the new record, on Mystic Electric, like when it goes da 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 da, you know, that melody which is like sitting right there in your like here. If you listen to headphones, it's like in the middle of your brain, and it's warm at the same time. So it's kind of, and the other thing it does very well is it works with the effects very well. So you can put a bit of delay, which I always put on, responds greatly to a wah. Well, you know, the wah responds great to this guitar, and it's so dynamic, you know, so you can actually dig in, you know, these speakers are great. And then I changed the pots, but that's just because the pots that come with it are cheap Asian, Chinese, you know, pots, and if you have to change something in here, it's a pain in the ass because you have to get everything out from this little hole and then put it back in. You have to have wires pulling shit out. So I figured, you know, I'm just gonna do it once, change the pickups, get the whole thing done, and that's it, and forget about it. And so far it's worked, but I put in some Japanese-made pots, and somebody gifted me these knobs, which are a replica of the old Gibson, so I just put it on because it looks great. But yeah, it's a great guitar. Even stock, I would, you know, I would give this as a present to a lot of people if I could, because it's an incredible guitar. And the Epiphone pickups are not bad at all. It's just that, you know, to record and to do professionally, you know, I don't know, it sounds bad to say because you really don't need to do it, but I really wanted that sound, and so it's a very great sound. Sounds great with a Marshall. It works fine with Fender style amps. You know, it's a really cool thing. So if you ever think about a big 335, which are thousands sometimes, this is a good option. So you get an Epiphone dot, and then you put different pickups. And I was debating the Lawler and the Seymour Duncan and the Antiquities, but eventually these have Seth Lover, and you can hear it on the song Answers. You can hear it on Mystic Electric, the melody, which I don't remember how to play, but so this part, it has a bit more distortion and overdrive, but this is the guitar I used. So everything that's very intimate, you know, and very personal, I like to use this guitar. Okay, I'm gonna get two more. So now that we know this works, I'm just gonna disconnect for a second. I'll be right back. For Malul's Stranglehold. By the way, I know some of you guys, but anybody who wants to share where they're from, as you know, I really enjoy that. So as you come in, you know, let me know if you don't, if you know I don't know you, you know, you can share it. By the way, I see people that are from Italy, they're from Colombia, right? They're from Spain. I got people from America, from here, from Barcelona. It's great. This is great, you know, just sitting here and having a chat. But this guitar, this is, as you can see, another Epiphone. You know, because again, this guitar was bought as a whole filler, you know, from because it has a specific sound. You know, I wanted a Les Paul sound. I didn't want to spend too much money on it, not just for the money, but because, yeah, that is true. That's a Ted Nugent, yeah, reference. I got that. So this is an Epiphone Les Paul, but it's actually close, very close to an actual Gibson, because this series was a limited time series, and at the time Epiphone didn't have a great reputation, and Gibson didn't have a great reputation. You know, people were talking about how shitty they were, which I never subscribed to, because you know, just because you see it on the internet, then everybody thinks, oh well, now you know Epiphone sucks or Gibson suck. But I always thought, you know, they had great guitars and bad guitars. But I saw this as a way for them to reestablish themselves. So sometimes brands will do that. New brands sometimes do it. New brands sometimes come out with a great guitar for cheap, and then slowly, you know, they will, in time, will bring up the prices to match the quality of their instruments. But they need to make the splash. And I think Gibson did that with this guitar. And it's a tribute something. I should have been prepared for this. It's a 1960 Tribute Plus. And the thing about this guitar is the wood is from Epiphone, so it was assembled in Indonesia, of course, or wherever they're made. And this is just a veneer, you know, it's not an actual cap, it's just a veneer, so it's a little teeny tiny leaf of sheet of wood. But that's for aesthetic reasons. But the whole thing, starting from the switch to the pots to the pickups, it's Gibson. And so if you subscribe to the idea that as long as the guitar is well built, the main sound comes from the pickups, then, as I do, then this was a great guitar to fill that need of the classic Les Paul sound. And it's it has the 57 and the 57 Plus. So it's brighter, you know, than the 335. It has a bit more bite. This pickup is softer. And then you can hear. You know, it's a very clean sound, but it still bites. It has that grip. And so this is a great guitar for many things. Sometimes I don't want something too thick, because it's a rhythm track, or you know, stuff like that. And so I use this. It's also quite present, and this was used for the intro of Answers on Mystic Electric. It was also used a lot on most rhythm tracks you hear on Lights and Shadows and Mystic Electric. It's shared between the Parkers, this guitar, and a single coil guitar like the Strat or the Telly, which we're going to look at. And it's a very specific sound, and if you know how to use it, it works very well. So I use it for a lot of rhythm, and sometimes I use it for leads that they don't have to be too thick, and they don't have to carry the song. So if I want a melody to feel a bit more fragile, you know, I don't want it to feel so not nice, but you know, I don't want it sometimes to feel so that it takes you somewhere, but that you need to go with it. You know, you need to actually invest some effort into the melody. Then I might bring this guitar out, because it's a bit raw. You know, it's not as round and as comfy as maybe the Parkers, which we'll talk about. Now, if you think they all sound the same, you might be right. A lot of guitars, once you don't look at them, they all kind of tend to sound the same. But I don't want to tweak them so much to make every guitar sound like every other guitar. I prefer to have a guitar for each purpose. And maybe it's just a thing that I do to maintain the inspiration. But as we were saying before, you don't need all these guitars. But if you can get a few of them, I think it will help, especially when you multiply. We talked about this in other videos. You sometimes you have something that that does something and you say, well, it's good enough. And that's good enough for one track, you know, but when you have 8 rhythm tracks, you know, that effect multiplies. So maybe if I use this guitar on all 8 rhythm tracks, then you wouldn't get that full sound that you get when I mix it with others. How many guitars do you end up using on a song, okay, per song, and what guitar do you generally prefer for doing power chords? Okay, so first question, Jose. It really depends. As you say, you like Power of Fantastic. I think it was you. That record was made with 1 guitar, maybe one and a half. You know, so I use whatever the song calls for. Sometimes out of need, because at the time I didn't have any more guitars, and sometimes I just figured that if I open myself to using 15 guitars, I will get in trouble. You know, because I will start thinking about so many options. The same with amplifiers. So I usually, when I start a song, I go like, okay, well, I have this sound in my head and this other sound. So maybe I think of 3 guitars, maybe three guitars, sometimes just 1. And then as I work on it, I will get into, you know, go like, okay, no, I need this other guitar, or sometimes I record something and it doesn't work, you know, it doesn't work, and I go like, okay, I know why, because this other guitar will work better. So it's very important that you know your gear. That's fundamental. And it's something that, even though I'm not against buying gear, I think it's extremely important that you buy it little by little. So you buy a piece of gear and you really spend your time with it, because that's what you will actually use, and it will inform every other decision you make as far as what other gear you need. Okay, so that's one thing. But I don't have a set number of guitars. It can go from 1 to, I'm going to give you a little story. There's a song on Lights and Shadows that's called The Traveler. And I really love this song. It's a strange composition-wise. I really like it. But, you know, I won't go into the meaning of the song, but it is about, you know, a certain process that we all have to go through, you know, with anything, life itself, or even just a professional choice or a personal relationship. It's an evolving thing, and you know, sometimes you struggle with it, sometimes you let go and you flow with it, sometimes you go like, no, things are gonna go my way. And so to me, that song needed a lot of sounds, and so I came up with the idea of having like 100 guitar sounds on this song. And I used all my guitars, all my amps, I used everything. And I thought it was like, wow, this is great, this is genius, look at me, I'm using all these guitars. When it came time to mixing, there was no way of putting all these guitars together. It was such a hard time, and I go like, okay, never again. You know, don't try to be so smart that you're stupid, you know. But eventually it worked. But a lot of it was actually trying to make all these different guitars now sound like fewer guitars. So, but that song used, I don't know, like 10 guitars, something like that. I used all of them. But anyway, this is another great guitar. If you ever look for a Les Paul sound, you're not ready to commit to an actual Gibson, because you know, I have a music school, and sometimes students will bring in guitars, and maybe one of the teachers will go, hey Andrew, check this out. So they come into the studio, we plug in a guitar, sometimes they sound great. A student brought a Gibson and I said, do you mind if we compare? Because I really was curious. And he's like, I don't care, yeah, even if yours is better, I don't mind. And he had a great $3,000 Gibson, and we all like the sound of this better. So you never know. And this is stock. The only thing I did was take out a couple of pots that split the coils, because I don't care, I don't need it, so I took them out, use them somewhere else. So these are not splittable. But if you buy the guitar, this is actually splittable coils. You can go, you know, kind of single coily. Okay, what guitar do you generally prefer for doing power chords? All of them. I don't mind. You know, it depends what the song needs. If it needs something really full, which you have to be careful with power chords, I might use, you know, a Gibson style guitar. Sometimes I like the presence of single coils, like the song we're going to talk about now, The Best We Can on Mystic Electric, was all done with this guitar. We're going to talk about this guitar really quickly. And then even if they sound similar, the feel, let me just move this window, the feel is totally different. That affects the final result. Oh yeah, of course. But that being said, as a good sequel into a segue into this, is that the biggest difference is between single coils and humbuckers. Now that is an actual difference you'll hear, you know, more than different kinds of pickups and different kinds of woods. You know, the big families, you know, of single coils and humbuckers are really important. So I do suggest, if you play guitar, that you eventually end up with at least one of each, one of the humbuckers and one of the, excuse me, of the single coils. This guitar is the first of two G&Ls that I got. Again, these are the lower priced ones. They're not extremely cheap, but they're not very expensive. They're made in Indonesia, I think. And now this guitar has a very strange setup, because G&L was a company that Leo Fender created this company when Fender was sold to CBS, you know, and he created this other company with a partner, and he said, well, we're gonna keep evolving the Stratocaster and the Telecaster, you know, my inventions. And they're still going strong. And I bought this guitar and I thought it felt great again, but there was something missing to the sound, because it's a bit of a more modern kind of sound, and it sounded great, but I didn't need that. I wanted the quintessential Stratocaster. And so I ended up putting Stratocaster pickups in it, and I tried a few of them and eventually settled on these are, what are they? Oh man, I know, because I tried so many on these. You know, people will lend me pickups so I could try them. These are the Catalina is an operating system. These are the ones that now come with the new Mexican Strats. Strangely enough, I went out and bought a set of Mexican Strat pickups, and I look it up and I write it down in the comments, because I have this blackout in my head. I don't know what they're called. Maybe some of you, maybe Alex will know, because he knows everything about guitars. And so this guitar sounds great now. And you hear they're called Yosemite. Are they called Yosemite? I'm going through all the Mac OS names. So now it sounds exactly how I wanted it to sound. I wanted it to sound like a classic Stratocaster. And for somebody who's used to humbuckers since they were born, you know, it's a hard thing to play. Sometimes these guitars are so different to the touch, but I really wanted to get into it, and so I use this so much on Lights and Shadows. The song California has a lot of this. The song A Perfect Day. You know, this whole intro thing is with a Strat. I use it on the break of the song. But on Mystic Electric, there's a song that's proven quite beloved, and it's called The Best We Can. It's a song I did really quickly. I will make a video on it. And I recorded everything with this guitar because I thought I was doing a demo. And eventually, that's what I used. And except for an acoustic guitar, they were all made with this. All the tracks are the Strat. And you can hear it. And also you can hear it in the typical Strat sound at the end of Dawn Over the City on the same album on Mystic Electric. It's a song number 3 on that album. And it has this Hendrix-ish solo at the end. And it's made with this guitar. And it sounds great through a Fender amp, or Fender style amp, but it sounds incredible through a Marshall. So I have a Plexi that I use for all my classic sounds, and it sounds incredible. This guitar with the Plexi, you just lower the volume a little bit to clean it up. It sounds out of this world. So it's a great guitar, and it sounded great as it came from G&L, but I just modified it to get a standard Strat sound. Now, is it worth doing all this work when you can just buy a Strat for not that much more? Yeah, probably not, but I didn't know that I wouldn't be 100% happy with it. So, but you know, on Lights and Shadows, it was actually stock. What you hear on Mystic Electric is the new sound with the new pickups. But yeah, I actually enjoy going into the guitars and changing things. Okay, let's move a bit faster maybe. I don't want you guys to get bored. And I'm gonna go for 2 more guitars, if I can find my wire here. Okay, now, for a sound guy, for a pro studio guy, I suck at this shit. Hold on. I'm sure I'm gonna get a lot of comments like, okay. it wouldn't be one of my videos if I didn't drop everything. Okay, I'll be right back. Ah. Start with this. Yeah, I know. It wouldn't be one of my videos if the whole thing didn't fall to the floor. Man, this sucks. But that is true. I'm just trying to keep it fun. That's why I drop everything. So now the tripod is all out of place, and I won't stand where it. If you knew what it was standing on, you'd be like, "Wow, it's amazing it hadn't dropped before." All right, don't breathe. Don't breathe, anyone. So I'm gonna get shit, I'm sure, because oh well, for a studio guy, you sure don't know shit about microphones. Well, I don't know shit about doing YouTube videos. But okay. So now we're like this. You guys are too kind, you know. You could have just left a while ago. All right, so this guitar is, as you can see, a Tele style guitar. All right, and I bought it at the same time as the Strat because I needed this sound. And I won't go into a lot of detail with this because it's a standard thing. I never touched anything. It gave me the sound I was looking for. And you might recognize this guitar if you listen to a few of my stuff from this. This is the guitar I used for In Dreams and other things. I used it a lot on the Traveler, and I use it on every record, and it's a great sounding guitar and it feels great. And for that intro of In Dreams, I tried a few things, but this was it. You know, it's a very it's a guitar that the sound, it's kind of grabs you and pulls you in, you know, so it's very good for intimate and or meditative kind of sounds in my head. It's not so good for statements, you know. I wouldn't use it, well, at least I haven't used it a lot for statement-like parts, you know. I don't do that. I also don't use it a lot for strumming because it has such a strong character. Usually I want strumming to be in the back. But it's a great guitar, you know. It's a great guitar to just play with. Very often I spend hours just noodling with this. Great to study on. I love to play chords on it, to study new scales, or, you know, just play new things. And it's friendly. It's a friendly guitar. And the only problem is it has fat frets. And so when you play and you record, you know, when you record, sometimes you play for 8 hours a day, and it's different than when you play for 10 hours a day, because playing 10 hours a day is nothing. But when you actually record, it's a bit more stressful. You have to manage a few things, and so maybe sometimes you build up a bit of tension, and this doesn't forgive you. You know, if you're tense with this guitar, it goes all out of tune. I'm going to show you. Just press the strings a little harder. You hear that? All this chorusy shit. It just doesn't work. So you have to be very light on it, and then it sounds great. You hear that? It just goes out of tune real quick. And so it's a guitar that requires a certain respect. But I love it for many things, and I used it on a lot of songs. But you know, mostly I think you get a kick out of it being the intro to In Dreams. Okay, Jose says, there is a guitar I haven't seen yet. Saw it in a video where an orange amplifier in the back. You had a guitar with the R in the headstock. Yeah, we're gonna get to it. Yeah, we're gonna get to it. And you don't like the Telecaster sound. Yeah, well, you know, it's a very specific sound. There are a lot of people, you know what the great thing about a Tele is, that it could be your only guitar. You can get a lot of sounds out of a Tele, but it's also a very hard guitar to master. You know, there's a lot of people who say, you know, if you can master a Telecaster, that's it, you've arrived. You know, and it's true. It's a strange beast. All right, look at this. This is like it makes you want to eat it. You know, it looks like an ice cream. Look at that. And this guitar is, of course, a Danelectro, which might be out of tune. I was going to tune all the guitars before the video, but for some reason I couldn't hear anything, so I had to go through the whole patch bay, and it took me forever. Now again, very specific sound. This guitar has the soap bar, the lipstick bar pickups. They sound very different from every other guitar. Very bright. They're twangy in a way, but it's not the Fender way. So, you know, they're... This is another guitar that I really enjoy just playing on. You know, it's easy to play. I set it up in a way that's easy to play. Not very low, but easy. You know, it's softer. And it can be used as single coils. But you can hear the bump in volume when you put them together, because now it works as a one pickup. And this sound is really cool. You can get some really cool stuff out of this if you do the opposite of what you think you should do, which is put it through a fuzz pedal or a very highly distorted amp. Sounds great. Jimmy Page, of course, used this guitar in a lot of songs, Kashmir and so on. So compressed wood guitars sound great. Yeah, all guitars sound great, really. Unless you're going for the acoustic thing. Then I think in acoustic instruments, it is true that wood and treatment of wood and the quality of the wood and the construction, how many pieces, or if it's actual one piece, or if it's pressed, you know, that is a bigger thing than on electrics, you know, and the debate is out there, but I found, you know, the main thing for electric guitars for me is the feel. If it feels good and the architecture of the guitar, you know, the anatomy of it is conducive to what I do, I have no problems with them. If, you know, I couldn't play my style of music with this guitar, you know, that's why I needed something like the Parkers, but you know, sound-wise, you can get great sounds just by changing pickups, and not great sound, but the sound you are after, a lot of it is in the pickups. But, you know, again, as Alex was saying, the feel of the guitar and the interaction you have with the frets, you know, that's very important. But sound-wise, it has little to do with it. Like, some people go like, well, this is basswood from this area of the world, but this basswood is from another area of the world. I like basswood, not basswood. If you have basswood from this area or that one, or mahogany, this mahogany is darker. I'm like, I don't know. If you gave me the guitars one day, one guitar, the other day, the next, I would feel the difference, but would I be able to hear them? Sometimes I record my albums and I go back, what guitar was this? And I can't tell if it was the Parker or if it, you know, the sound-wise, there's so many things that go into it. And the most important thing is how you play them. I can make my Epiphone, my Les Paul sound like this if I just, the way I play it, you know, so, and they're completely different in kinds of guitars. So, but this is a fun guitar to have, and I really enjoy it. Sometimes I just take it home and it stays home for a week or two, and I use it to play because I enjoy it. Let me see if I can get up without screwing everything up again. All right, check this out. All right. I'm glad to see you guys are still there. If you get bored or if you have questions, you know, let me know. This might get a bit long, but I don't have that many left. Look at this. This is a an LTD guitar. I bought this when I got to America. I ordered it online through what do you call it, mailing catalog. So I got a catalog and I actually picked it up and I sent a check and got this, and actually got two of them by mistake. And I tried to tell them that they sent me two of them and they wouldn't answer the phone. And in the end, I sold one. And I told them, I'm like, look, if you ever want it, I'll keep it for a month, but I don't need to. So I sold the other one. And a friend of mine has it. Look at this. Again, see that? No paint. I did all kinds of shit with this guitar. Played a lot of it, live a lot with it. Played in San Francisco and I played in Egypt, I think, with this guitar. Now it's of course semi-retired because it just has a hard time. Poor thing. It's been destroyed. But hasn't been on. This wasn't used on Mystic Electric. It was used on a couple of things on Lights and Shadows. Again, the Traveler, because I had to use every guitar. But it has a longer scale. It's a bit harder sounding. The pickups were pretty bad. It was EMG pickups when I bought it. And these are Evolution pickups. These are the Steve Vai pickups, but I'm talking the 90s, so I don't know what pickups are now. But I didn't know anything about guitars then, and I thought if it works for Steve Vai, I guess I would just buy them. And I had somebody, I couldn't even do it myself. I had somebody put them in. It's a bit in need of repair, the bridge. I will do it sometimes, but I just, it's not a guitar it's not a high priority. I'm just keeping it for, because first of all, I could never sell this. Look at this. Can you see that? Look at that. And this, yeah, so it's really beat up, but it works. It still works. Let me see what it sounds like. Man, I haven't plugged this in years. I don't know if it will work. But yes, it does. Can you hear that? Yeah, it's a bit out of tune. Ugh, a lot. I haven't heard this guitar for a long time, so I'm actually going to try to fix it one day and I'll make a video on it. So, yeah. Oh yeah, it is. Well, let me see your comments. Can get bored. You're a pro guitar player who interacts. The majority won't do this. Well, thank you. I'm happy to be here. As far as now, you and Jennifer Batten are talking about their stuff. Really? Man, I saw Jennifer with, I met her once, but before that, I saw her with Jeff Beck. I saw her with Jeff Beck in Italy at a free concert in a park somewhere. We just went with somebody who had a car. I didn't drive then, I think. And somebody just go like, okay, let's go see Jeff Beck. I'm like, okay. And they blew my mind. I think, who was playing? Was it Vinny? Vinny Colaiuta was playing drums. Man, what a show. I'm like, oh my God, what is this? I thought I was starting to know about guitar, and I see Jeff Beck. I'm like, shit, now I have to start again from zero. And Jennifer Batten was doing all these synth things, and she was going nuts. I could see her, she was smiling, but she was like, what the fuck? She was hitting all these pedals, and every pedal was a different sound. And it's crazy. But yeah, Jennifer, when I met her, I think I met her at a NAMM show. She was so nice. At the time, I was barely doing anything. I was still kind of trying to figure out what I was going to do. And she was really nice. And so I'll check her out. On her YouTube channel, Jose, is that where she's doing her things? What about all those holes? Yes, you don't want to know. I put like decorative things, metal things here. I was like 19 or something, and they all fell off. And when they fell off, either they left the epoxy or they chipped the wood, the paint, so you can see the wood. But it doesn't matter because this guitar, it's I don't think it will see a lot of use, But anyway, I just thought it would be fun for you to see it. Yeah, I think if I find an old picture of this, I'll post it on Instagram or Facebook. Okay, so this guitar won't stand anywhere, so I'm going to leave it on the floor. Let me just put it here. It's so tall that you can't use a normal stand for it. And this is the one I think, Jose, you were asking about. This is a problem with the input jack, so I won't plug it in. But this is a guitar that comes with a bit of backstory. In 2000 something, when I moved to Barcelona and I was starting to do things, and I started work with a singer who was in a very famous heavy metal band, and we made a record. Then, you know, for legalities, it didn't quite come out. You know, we'll get into it some other time. Actually, I can't. But oh, let me read your questions first. I play bass, and it looks huge. Yeah, it is huge. It's huge. It's huge. It's not too bad actually. If you sit down, these are kind of comfortable. And then you saw Jennifer at my music school in Bogota, okay, and she rocks, great, and she's starting it on YouTube. All right, I'll check her out. I'll definitely check her out. She won't remember me, but you know, I don't think so. But I'll check it out. If she does the live things, I'll watch. Okay, so this guitar was made by Ramos Guitar, and at the time, Ramos Guitar is a luthier. His name is Jose Ramos, and he lives close to Barcelona. At the time, he was working at a shop in Barcelona, and a mutual friend, introduced us, and he said, "Well, you know, if you need a guitar, I'll be able to make one as you want it." And so he made this guitar for me, and I kind of designed the design, but I didn't really know what I was doing, so we kind of did it together. It's a beautiful guitar. You know, it has great finishing. He was starting out on his own, so he has a few things that maybe, you know, of course now he would do differently. But look at this neck, great looking neck. And this guitar I used for a long time. It's all over Power Fantastic, as we were talking about before. Power Fantastic was made with basically one guitar, and this is it. And there was a little bit of this, the ESP you just saw. And this guitar had split coil, a cap for a high pass. And you know, it was standard. It has DiMarzio pickups. These are the Path Pro, I think, and I don't know what Path Pro and something, and a Fred, I think they were. And you know, I had a great time with Ramos, and then eventually something happened. It didn't quite work out. You know, years later, I think, you know, we had different ideas of where to take it, and so we parted ways. And he's doing very well, I think, in his shop. He works at his own. He has his own shop, and I wish him the best. I think he's doing very well. So he's a great builder, and I think he got a lot better through the years. So you can check him out. It's called Ramos Guitars. But after this, I went with Parker Guitars, which we're going to move on to right now. Desafinado says he has to leave. All right, see you later. You can catch it. You can catch we leave it up on YouTube, of course. All right, so I'm gonna go get the first two Parkers, and whatever I talk about on the first Parker will apply to the second one. All right, I'll be right back. Start with this. Okay, so as I was saying, after moving on from Ramos, I was looking at a brand that could, you know, work with me on a different kind of not level, but, you know, a different agreement and different ways of doing things. And I didn't really want to. I'm not a big endorsement whore, you know. I don't mind buying stuff if I use it and I like it. But sometimes, you know, things come along, and Palmer, for example, Palmer have been great. You know, I've been working with them for a long time. But usually, I don't go look for this stuff. And if I get an endorsement sometimes, it's usually because I've been using their stuff for a long time. But Parker is not something you just go out and use a lot and then eventually go like, well, maybe I'll get a Parker, because they're so expensive. And it's a commitment, because you also have to really marry the actual physicality of the instrument. So I tried a few of them, which was very hard to do, because here in Barcelona you can't find a lot of shops that have them. These are very expensive guitars. And I thought, if I'm going to use Parker, I need to know that they will work for me. And so eventually I tracked down a few, and the distributor here sent me a couple to try. And I decided, okay, well, this is what I want to do. And I contacted the factory, the actual, you know, Parker Guitars in America, in Illinois. And I'm going to tell you a little story about how I got in touch with them, because it might cheer you up if sometimes you feel like you've been ignored by people in the industry or people in the whole thing, you know, in the music business, I will tell you what I went through, and maybe it will make you feel better. I was learning about Parker guitars, and after a Philip McKnight video, I ended up in your channel. Oh, okay, yeah, cool. Philip McKnight, is he a guitar player? I should know all this stuff. I'm sure these guys are great. I'm very rarely on YouTube, actually. I'm always playing the guitar. Let me know. But thanks for suggesting all these people. Well, I knew Jennifer, but you know, definitely suggest channels to me if you want, and I'll be very happy to check them out. I'm not an expert on YouTube, as you can tell by my falling cameras. So anyway, this guitar. So I called Parker and I got in touch with him. He's a YouTuber like a luthier. Okay, I'll check him out. So I decided, okay, I'm gonna go with Parker, but I can't deal with the people here in Spain. You know, they're just distributors. They won't get me. They won't get what I want, and you know, because all they do is order the guitars and sell them. So I wasn't interested in that, and I thought that if I was gonna do something with a brand such as Parker, I was gonna give a lot to them because I was gonna work a lot with their guitars, and you know, if I like something, I'm very happy to spread the word because that's what I do, as you can see, about a lot of things that I have no relationship with. I'm not affiliated to Epiphone or to G&L or to Danelectro. I have no affiliation to them, and I still sing their praises if it's, you know, if it's warranted. But for my main guitars, I'm like, well, I need somebody who's behind it. And so I got in touch with them, and it took me 50 or 60, I think it was, phone calls every night, because it's a time difference. Every night at 11 p.m. I will get on the phone and call Parker. And the sweet lady at the front desk always answered, and she's like, no, the artist, I won't give his name, great guy, but she always said, no, he's not here. And I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. I call tomorrow. And like, would you like to leave a message? And I'm like, no, I'll just call tomorrow. So the next day I will go on the phone, 11 p.m., call again. And this poor lady answered me like 50 times. And then in the end, she's like, well, why don't you try hitting him up on it was US Music Corp Parker. Worst, most uninformed Parker reps ever. Rob, okay, it sounds like you had a bad experience. Yeah, but this was actually the actual, I was actually talking to the factory, which was of course owned by US Music Corp, but it had a different, I was talking to the actual factory. And so, this was Parker's artist relation guy. But anyway, eventually I sent this email to this address they gave me, and he got back to me, and I said, well, you know, here's the situation, you know, I've been calling, but I wanted to know if we could do something. And he's like, well, I don't know, send me whatever you got, and we'll see it. So I sent him a few things, a few songs, and what I was going to do, and my plans, and why I was looking for somebody to work with. And like 15 minutes later, he's like, okay, we'll be happy to do it, and you know, we got a deal together. And so what the plan was that I would get the Parker guitars that I wanted, which were the Mojos, which are the ones that I thought would be more conducive to what I do. And we'll talk about them in a second. So they made 2 of them for me at the custom shop, so I could pick all the paint colors, and we'll get into those and a few modifications. And then very soon thereafter, I got an email from them, and they go like, well, we have a few of these Parkers laying around here, and we're going to email the artists. And I think in the email there was like Adrian Belew and you know, all these great players, and like, if anybody wants any, let us know, and you can get them for a ridiculous price. And so I go like, I saw this color, and I'm like, this is it, you know, look at this gold, and it's a yellow something, a gold yellow, but it's beautiful. It's just a beautiful color. And the reason I wanted it is because it's the actual opposite of the ones that they made for me. This is very much based on the pre-refined Parkers. Of course, the construction is post, but it's a different wood, which, you know, I'll leave to you the effect that it has on the sound. But the pickups were by Seymour Duncan, but strangely enough, instead of using the usual JB and 59, which all the post-refined Parkers used, these were made by Seymour Duncan to simulate the original DiMarzios, which were the kind of thinny and colder sounding pickups. And I thought, wow, this would be a very good complement to the very warm sounding Parkers that they are making for me. And so I got one of these, and so you can hear how it sounds a little bit clinical. Oh. This sounds like I'm about to break a string. You see that? So I've used this a lot on a lot of songs, especially in Lights and Shadows. It's been used a lot. And a little less on Mystic Electric because, as you know, I had a problem in my studio with interference and I had to record a lot of the lead guitars on Mystic Electric on at my house, in my kitchen. I had to make a makeshift studio in my kitchen, and I didn't bring this with me. So this ended up on a few rhythm tracks on Mystic Electric, but it is not featured as a lead instrument. But on Lights and Shadows, you can hear it. I think a lot of California was made with this, and of course also with the Fenders, because that's what I kind of wanted to do, use American guitars. And it was used on one. No, I'm sorry, on Feel the Sky quite a bit, because I had just got the guitars and I used it quite a bit on. Did I use it on Feel the Sky? No, Feel the Sky. A lot of Feel the Sky was made actually with the Ramos. I'm sorry, I just it's so long ago. And so it's a beautiful guitar. This is a deluxe, by the way. If you guys, I know some of you were asking about buying a Parker. This is a deluxe, Parker Deluxe, so it's a bit different. The wood is even lighter than the other ones because the Mojos are made of mahogany, and this is made of basswood. All the necks are glued with a joint like this, which I don't remember what it's called. Incredibly stable. You know, this will never move. It's a bit light and it sounds a bit thinner, which if I were to buy one Parker, or if I had to have only one, I would probably pick a Mojo. But otherwise, it's a great complement to the other guitars because it sounds like, it takes effects very well. That's one thing. You can play with big reverbs and choruses, and it sounds incredible because it leaves so much room and space to the effects. So it's a good guitar, and I love the color. The color is incredible. Okay, and let me see. That's a US Music Corp. Yeah. So Rob, hello Rob. Where are you from? 20 years playing an FHT. FHT. I'm sure I should know what that is. FHT. What's a FHT? I'm sure it's something dumb that I should know. Best guitar ever. Time to refret. Nothing but silliness from their people. Okay, so I guess you're talking about the US Music Corp. Fly. Oh, okay, I get. Yeah, I know. Okay. A hardtail. Why do you have to refret it? Doesn't it have all the the stainless steel frets? So yeah, well now it's going to be hard for you to do because they're closed. So by the way, Parkers are no more. So if you want a Parker, either wait for maybe some news of them opening again, or you have to buy it secondhand. So I'm going to get into a little bit of these custom guitars that they made for me. There's a video somewhere on the internet about it. And so I don't want to bore you with it, but I'll give you a little bit of new. Even stainless steel will wear out after 20 years. Well, you know what, actually, before I got these, they arranged for a couple of pre-refined guitars here to have at the studio. And I was amazed, actually, these were from the 90s, and the frets were brand new. And they had been played a lot because a lot of the guitar was used, but the frets were 100% pristine. So you say that even stainless steel will wear out, but I'm sure that it does. But on those two that I tried, they were immaculate. So I don't know. I'm hoping to not have to refret them because that would be, they have a different way of gluing the frets, so it'd be hard. Jose says, if you had to, there you go, to select one brand of pickups, which ones? I don't know. I use, as you know, I use Gibson, I use Fender, I use DiMarzio, I use Seymour Duncan, and I've tried even other brands. On my guitar that's not here, my Godin, I have their own P90, which sounds incredible. But as one brand, maybe just DiMarzio's, because I know them quite well. And Rob says that you had to use a friend and ship through 2 countries, but I found wire. Wow. Well, I have a spool of wire. I have actually wire in case one falls off and I lose it. I have wire, and so eventually I'll be able to fix them. I have a few parts here and there that if anything happens I can replace, but I'm hoping not to have to. And if if any brand wants to get in touch with me, but I'm not looking because I'm very happy with them. So it's true that I love what I play because you can't even buy them anymore. So I don't have to do anything for Parker. It doesn't even exist, but they're great guitars. But maybe one day I'll explore a few new things and see if there's anything new that I like. Anyway, now this and the white one, which I get just to show you the paint job. This guitar is one of the two that were made at the custom shop, and this was after I talked to them and they agreed to make guitars for me, and so I said, well, the basic Mojo is fine. I don't need, the guitar is great. I love the look. Some people, this is, I love this. This looks like a spaceship, and I found it incredible. I have no issue with the headstock, which was changed from the previous ones. It was a bit thinner. I don't mind this. They said, if you want the old one, we can make it. But I'm like, no, I want to hang them. It's easier. And so what I wanted was different circuitry, because I'm not a big fan of well, I like the piezo pickup. As you know, Parkers have the option of you can select this pickup here, and it sounds like an acoustic guitar, but I needed, 99% of what I do is electric, so I wanted to really focus on that. So I had them split the circuits, and they kind of did it, but they didn't do it as strongly as I wanted. So the first thing I did when I got these guitars, I opened them up and modified them. But I added a split. It has a split coil, and this one I rewired out of phase. So when I put both of them together, they are they're out of phase, so it sounds weird, the middle pickup. And the other one is wired in phase, so I can get, and it has the same pickup, so it gets the same sound. And then here I removed the push-pull for the bright cap, and on this one I'm not using it right now, but I might put it back in. And that one has a push-pull bright cap, so when you lower the volume you don't lose so much of the high frequencies. But on this one I didn't really, I wanted to lose, I wanted to have that more vintage thing where you lower and you drop a bit of highs. So I removed it. I might put it back in. I might put it back on a push-pull, or I might just leave it on all the time. And with this kind of guitar, I don't use the volume part as much as with the classic sounding ones. I use it a lot on the Fenders and even the Les Paul, but with these it's usually full out. And the tone, the only thing is the split coil. And then I went in and I actually went way overboard with it, and I completely separated. Now this is out of the loop. You can still use it, but you have to use a different cable that I have. I made one specially that only connects to one pin, and then I can use the acoustic. I rarely do, but I'm not interested in using both at the same time, which a lot of people with the Parkers love to do, but I don't. So this is inside. It still has all these weird circuits, but really all I'm using is the two pots and the selector, this one. And this goes straight to the output. By the way, I put Velcro on all my covers because I don't want to unscrew and screw them on, and then I always lose the screws. So I use Velcro on all my guitars. So this is actually simpler than all my other guitars because it goes straight to the output. So it's simpler than my other Parkers. Do you fix your own guitars? Yes, yeah, I do. I do everything except for fret leveling, which I haven't had to do yet. Because now that I have more guitars, I play them, so it takes a long time for them to wear out. And the stainless steel ones don't really wear out. Except now that Rob says they do, now I'm a bit worried. And then you ask, what was the lead guitar from the song Funky Robots? This was it. This does the lead on a lot of songs on Mystic Electric. Most, as I said, the Strat was used on The Best We Can and quite a bit of Dawn Over the City. But this was used a lot on a lot of leads, like most of them with this guitar, and also the 335. But the 335 was used on, what did I say? The main melody of Answers, and the actual title track, Mystic Electric, I think was done on the guitar. But pretty much everything else, all the leads are this guitar. And the Funky Robots, I only have a clean sound now, but you can hear that it's this guitar. He has that, and it sounds very classic. It has a path and a fret, I think, this as well. So, and these were, they had to order them. The Parker people had to get them shipped because they only work with Seymour Duncan, so it was a bit of a hard thing to do to put DiMarzios, but eventually these are DiMarzios. Where can I learn guitar electronics? YouTube videos are not very specific. Well, I just learned by doing. You know, you can't really break too much here. Amps are a different thing. I've serviced my own amps, but you have to be very careful with it, and I'm not actually that good with them, and I'm very careful. If it's something that's out of my reach, I don't do it. But guitars, there's not much you can break. You can maybe overheat a capacitor, which is like 10 cents or less. Maybe you can screw up a pot with maybe even the best one, they're like $8. So you can just try things. There's schematics for all the pickups. When you buy pickups, it comes with schematics and stuff. So I would just try it. I've heard about the post-revision models having frets fall off. Mine's a pre-rev and has been abused to the point where if one was going to fall off, it would have by now. Yeah, we had a friend of mine bought a Parker. When I got mine, he loved them so much, he actually went out and bought one, and one of his frets fell off. And we just put a very thin, strong super glue on, and it worked, and he's never had the problem again. And I had a little bit of a lift on one of these frets. It was minuscule, but I still could hear it, so I went in and I fixed it. But yeah, that's what I was saying in another video, that spending $4,000, or these are actually, the custom shop are probably $6,000. So spending that on a guitar, I would question it with any guitar, but I've heard people complaining about some of the quality concerns with the Parkers, but you know, now that they're not made anymore, the ones that are in circulation, they've been around for a while, and if they hadn't broken, you know, I don't think they would break like 10 years after they're made. So I think as we go on, they're more trustworthy because they've been used, and you know, I don't see any frets falling off of this one, you know, because it could happen, but problems that I've seen with Parkers, they've been out of the factory, you know. People actually bought one and they opened the case and they had 3 frets swimming around the case, which was nuts. Very clean sounding. Yeah, because I have this clean amp, I don't want to get into the, you know, changing, but let's see. This sound was used on Funky Robots. It's a profile. I used an amp and I profiled it, so I don't think it's going to sound exactly the same. See, this is the sound. There you go. That's the sound I used. It had a wah. There's a lot of wah. I don't think it's... Yeah, it's not on now. But yeah, it was this sound. So I'm glad I could play it for you because you were asking. But it was this sound, almost exactly the same, because this is a profile of my plexi, so it sounds 99% there. And I think I used it for all of it, so. I think it was the whole song with this. So let me grab the other one and we'll get going, because I think we've been on for more than an hour. Thank you very much for hanging in there. I'm gonna go grab the final guitar and I'll tell you one or two things about the basses I use, and we'll call it a day. Oh wait, I was about to. All right. Oh, I should add that the Parkers, especially the solar flare one, the one with the crazy paint job, that's been used live many times. It's traveled, and it's so, you know, I think it's lived through it, so I feel comfortable with it. And this is the other one. This came out exactly the same as the other one, although you might be surprised how much of the Parkers were made by hand. And it feels like a different guitar, even if it's an exact clone. It has a different color. It's a pearlescent white with this incredible blue. I get so excited about colors. I've always been like that. But it looks a bit gray on the camera, but it's really an amazing metallic blue. And this is the last, actually both of them were the last models ever made with these two colors. Because this one, they actually ran out of paint. They didn't have any more of this paint. And when my artist relation guy went to the factory, he saw that there was a little something in the paint, and he said, this won't do, you have to do it over again. And I said, like, no, because if you're out of paint. So they actually found one small pot of paint and they used it, and this is the last blue burst that was ever made. And I think that was the last solar flare one that was ever made. But this, I'm 100% sure this is the last one that was ever made. And I don't know, it's kind of cool. And this one has a different thing because I didn't touch it as much as the other one, so it still has all the thing. You can still select this. It's half split, so it doesn't really interfere with the sound, but it's still in the circuit, though not as the standard one. So you still have to use either one or, but it's not completely severed. And this still has the bleed and still split, but this is wired in series, in phase. So if you use the middle pickup, split or humbucker, it's still it works as, you know, in phase, so you don't get the stranger sound, which I really like. So that's why I have my other ones wired like that. And what else? It's a bit different feeling. It's a bit thick, not thicker because it's probably a fraction of a millimeter, but I feel a little bit of difference, and it sounds a bit more open than the other one. It's a bit more open is a good word, and same exact pickups, same exact wood. So I'm guessing there's something different about how they were wired or something, but very similar. If you don't know which one you're playing, you wouldn't hear it, but I do hear a little bit of a difference, and certainly they feel a bit different. And I haven't used this one as much. I don't know, I clicked with the other a bit more, and this one has been used on all over, Mystic Electric and Lights and Shadows, and I use it a lot for a bit lower gain leads and melodies, because it really it opens up a bit more than the other one, and it doesn't compress as much, so it's a bit more lively. But overall, the other one is my favorite. I use it all the time, and for live, if I usually go through a whole show, we can play. I have enough material that we've done some shows that are almost 2 hours long. If you can believe it, people don't fall asleep. But I go through the whole show very often just with the solar flare. I never change guitars because they stay in tune so well. So yeah. All right, so this is it for guitars, and I use 2 bass guitars. One is a Fender Jazz bass, and the other one is a Lackland Skyline. I have them up here. I'm not gonna go pick them up because then really I will destroy the studio. And I tend to use the Lackland more for more modern sounding things. It's all over Lights and Shadows. Lights and Shadows, I only had the Lackland. Well, I had 2 basses, but I only used the Lackland. And you can hear the Lackland very clearly on the more electronic sounds, the more modern electronic-y sounding tracks, like Dawn Over the City. Dawn Over the City is a fun song because it has 2 sections. One of them is completely electronic. The drums are an 808. And the bass is the Lackland, very bassy. And then when I go to the rock part, which is the chorus, then it switches to the jazz bass. Again, I thought it was a great idea when I recorded, but then mixing 2 different drum kits, one electronic and one live, and 2 different basses was a pain in the ass. So, you know, but I use both of them, and sometimes I get stuff. You know, I have a lot of friends who are musicians, and if I need a specific sound, I'll eventually get a P bass, again for the same reason as always, to feel that spot, you know, for whatever. For Funky Robots, which is a very prominent bass line, it's all the jazz bass, because I wanted an old sounding kind of thing, you know, 60s, 70s, early funk. Rock funk bands, so I use the Fender. And Rob says, my Fly ruined me for all other guitars. Yeah, I see, that's why I'm not really looking for other things. But if you guys know of anybody making great guitars that are edgy but not too much, because I'm a bit of a classic kind of guy, even if I play the Parkers, because the Parkers may look futuristic, but they've been around for 30 years, you know, and they're really classic. And the way I have them set up, they do all the classic sounds very well. So All right, so I'm gonna wait for a couple of minutes if you have any more questions. Otherwise, maybe we should leave it at that because it's been an hour and a half already. You guys have been great. Thanks so much for logging on so early on, so I don't have to sit there staring at the camera. I don't really know what to say. It's been great. And we'll do another one with amplifiers if you want. And I will start very soon with live videos about songs of my catalog. The reason is, of course, that I can play them without getting blocked, but also because I don't really know a lot of songs by other people, and I can really get into the composition and why I do certain things and how I transition from one section to the other. And I'll pick maybe one or two things of each song and get a bit into it as to how they work compositionally and technically and stuff like that. If you have any songs you like me to do first, I'll try to accommodate it. Maybe play a little bit of each, you know, but I'm certainly gonna do one in Dreams, Funky Robots, you know, the favorites, Power Fantastic, I'll do Midnight Driver, but you know, maybe some obscure ones you're curious about, like Dawn Over the City. It's a great song because it's all 3 chords, the whole song. So something like that. I'll talk about it and see how you guys like it. All right. And Jose, your question is, why no Ibanez guitars? I don't know, because I don't think they would add to what I got, you know, because for modern stuff, you know, when I went to Parker, Ibanez was an option. We had you know, it was an option, but eventually I went with Parker because I could see myself playing the Parkers. I could picture myself. It sounds strange, but I could actually visualize myself with the Parker. Like I thought it would be the guitar that complemented me more, so that's why. And once you have these, I don't think there's going to be a big difference in concept. You know, they're still, Ibanez's are modern, you know. And Jose would like me to go over Midnight Driver. Okay, we'll do Midnight Driver for sure. Danielle says, do the song you want. They're all interesting. Well, thank you very much. I will then. I will do, but we'll do it live if you guys, do you guys feel like it would be a good idea to do it live, or would you prefer me to do a produced video? You know, I prefer doing it live because I'm not much of a YouTuber, I'm afraid. But I'm open to suggestions. If you want me to do an actual video, I'll try to do it. But somehow I find this a lot more interesting than talking to myself. So let me know. If for you it's okay to do it live, then I'll be happier. But they will be shorter, you know, there will be shorter videos, and maybe I won't answer so many questions because I'll kind of teach you a couple of things if I can. And so we'll leave these live things that I'm doing now, we'll keep them. So don't worry about them. The song things will be extra. Whatever suits you. Okay, Jose, and Carlos says a straightforward live video better. All right, that's what I'm thinking. I don't give a shit what I should do on YouTube. I know there's things that I should be doing, and Danielle is very good at pointing them out. I know, Danielle, and I really appreciate your help, but sometimes it's just like I see all these videos so well produced with these lights, and they have 5 cameras. I can't even keep one from falling off, so I think we should keep it simple. And you can do questions. Yeah, that's true. So today you got the reminder. Well, maybe it has to do with the bell thing, which I should know a lot more about. But make sure, you know, if you're subscribed to hit the bell, which I think then it will come up in your stream. Maybe I will put up the actual. I will schedule the live a couple of days earlier. Maybe it will show up a bit earlier. All right. So maybe the next one we'll talk about the amps a little bit, and then ask questions, and then the next one again will be a song, or maybe we'll do a song next week. I'll let you know. You can find out here, but maybe it's easier on Facebook and Spotify and Instagram. Instagram is Andre Tonelli Official, and Facebook is just Andre Tonelli 96. Don't ask me why. But yeah, and as always, thanks a lot for listening to the music. I know you guys do, and it's really very much appreciated. If you're on Spotify, please go back there and follow so that I know where you guys are in the world, because it's the most interesting thing to me. And I don't know, have a great weekend, and I'll see you very soon. And keep in touch. So, okay, Andre, thanks. Have a nice rest of the day. You too. Danielle, I won't worry. Thanks a lot, Danielle, for your help. Danielle has been helping me a lot. And if you see my thumbnails improving, that's him. Rob, it's nice meeting you. All right, see you next time. And I'll check out Jennifer. and your other channels. I go back through the chat and check out some channels. All right, man. All right, guys. Actually, there's a lot of you, so thanks a lot, and bring some friends next time if you want. And I'll leave this video up as always, so you can go back to it and check it out. Thanks for the chat. For my lulz, you are a shining artist. Well, thank you very much. You guys are a shining audience. Take care, guys. Let's see if I can switch this off without breaking anything. See ya. Bye-bye. Okay. Yes, I'm sure. Are you sure you want to stop? Bye.